I'm 28, and I have an older sister, Olivia, who's 31. Honestly, her life is a mess, but somehow, our parents still treat her like she's the golden child. Olivia seems convinced that I'm constantly trying to steal her spotlight or something. Because of this, she's made it her personal goal to one-up me at everything. Let me paint you a picture. This isn't your typical sibling rivalry where we argue over trivial stuff like who gets the last slice of pizza. No, it's way more intense than that. Imagine I pick up a new hobby like, say, archery. Before I know it, Olivia shows up at school with her own bow and arrows, acting like she's the next Robin Hood, boasting to everyone how much she's into archery. But it didn't stop at hobbies. If I so much as hinted in my diary that I had a crush on a guy, the very next day she'd be all over him, flirting shamelessly. And it wasn't just about boys or interests. Even if I decided to start eating healthier and working out more, Olivia would immediately jump on the same bandwagon, declaring her newfound love for clean eating and fitness. I'd stick to my meal plans and workout routines, but it always felt like she had to do everything I did, except it wasn't in a let's share interests kind of way. It was more like she needed to be involved in all my activities and be part of my friend circles. If I made a new friend, Olivia would go out of her way to befriend them too, trying to become their best buddy. Here's the problem. Olivia's tendency to copy me was so relentless that it felt like she was trying to outshine me at everything. This whole imitation game started getting on my nerves because it felt like I couldn't have a single thing that was truly mine. I tried explaining to my parents how much this was affecting me, but they just brushed it off. Their typical response was, "Oh, you two are sisters. Sisters always copy each other. It's natural." They made me feel ridiculous for wanting some personal space for my own passions. But the issue wasn't just about her copying me. It was about feeling like I didn't have a space to do the things I enjoyed without Olivia turning it into some weird competition. It was frustrating. I didn't want to keep battling over who did things better. I just wanted to chill and do my own thing. But Olivia always had to escalate everything, trying to outperform me and making the whole situation even more aggravating. It seemed like my parents were always cheering Olivia on, even when I was the one who was more invested in whatever we were doing. It was like they would never miss a single event if Olivia was involved, even if it meant taking a day off work. But when it came to me, suddenly their schedules were too busy, and my achievements just didn't seem to matter as much to them. It felt like they were always hyping up Olivia's successes while completely glossing over mine. Let me tell you how Olivia would bask in all the attention, relishing every moment she could use to rub it in my face. She took every opportunity to show me how much more our parents seemed to care about her. She would whisper snide comments to me when our parents were around. And if I ever showed that I was upset, she'd act all innocent, pretending she had no clue why I'd be so bothered. When we were alone, she was even nastier, taunting me by saying that if I disappeared, no one would care. Olivia would urge me to quit feeling sorry for myself, reminding me that I'd always be second to her, but her cruelty didn't stop there. She tormented me mercilessly at school on numerous occasions. She'd trip me on purpose in front of our classmates or hit me, only to brush it off as some silly dare from her friends. When the teachers started catching on to her antics, they called my parents in for a meeting. They took things so seriously that they even considered suspending me. My parents, however, would dismiss it as typical sibling rivalry and assure the school that it was just stuff they'd handle at home. But at home, Olivia would twist the story so it looked like I was the one provoking her, which supposedly justified her acting out. Olivia had this uncanny knack for flipping the narrative completely, especially when it involved me. Our parents, bless their hearts, seemed to put on rose-colored glasses whenever it came to Olivia. No matter how awful her behavior was, they rarely questioned her choices. Olivia could turn on the waterworks effortlessly. She'd cry and accuse me of fabricating stories out of pure jealousy. It was her ultimate defense mechanism, and unfortunately, it worked every single time. My friends, who witnessed a lot of this, started to call Olivia out on her blatantly cruel behavior toward me, and that's when she decided to take things up a notch. She began staging elaborate scenarios, showing up with fake bruises or strategically placed bandages, claiming they were the result of me supposedly attacking her. She painted me as the villain, fully exploiting the fact that I'm naturally introverted and prefer keeping my personal issues private instead of airing them out to everyone. Trying to defend myself against Olivia's web of lies felt like scaling a sheer cliff without any safety gear. She wouldn't let up. She spread her stories to anyone willing to listen. Anyone I ever talked to, shared a laugh with, or even remotely liked became her audience. Her goal? To make people view me through her twisted lens. And the outcome? My high school years turned into a battle to survive Olivia's relentless smear campaign instead of focusing on schoolwork or self-growth. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get worse, they did. After high school, Olivia decided to take a gap year because her grades were too low to get into any college. Meanwhile, I was ready to start my own college journey. Through a lot of hard work and maybe a stroke of luck, I managed to secure enough scholarships to cover my tuition. I was so proud and relieved. Then came the gut-wrenching news. During a casual conversation, my parents casually mentioned that they had been saving up for both of our college funds. But since I didn't need mine, they decided to funnel all the money that was meant for me, straight into Olivia's endless list of needs. So there it was, the harsh truth staring me in the face. My efforts to be self-sufficient and financially responsible had inadvertently given my parents the green light to use the funds meant for me to cater even more to Olivia's insatiable demands. It was a realization that hurt more than I like to admit. A sharp reminder of the imbalance that had characterized our sibling rivalry and my parents' fondness from the beginning. When my parents rolled out the red carpet for Olivia, telling her she could pursue whatever degree she wanted, it was like a smack to the face. The real kicker came when I discovered that they intended to deposit all of Olivia's college money into her lap. Yes, including the stockpile they had saved for me. I was furious, so I tried to speak some sense into them. I offered, why not save my college fund for something I might need later, like beginning my own business or planning my wedding? But, did that discussion not go as expected? They attacked me with the "it's our money, we'll spend it however we want" rhetoric, saying Olivia needed it far more than I did. I attempted to defend my argument, but they wouldn't have it. They even told me that they were tired of playing nursemaid to me and that I should learn to fend for myself. That night, I sobbed myself asleep. It felt that no matter what I accomplished, Olivia would always be the golden kid, and I'd simply be part of the family. Footnote. So when college moving day arrived, I packed up my belongings and made sure I had everything. I didn't want any cause to return to that house. My parents, as expected, did little to assist me in moving. Their absence had become less surprising by that point. However, it was during those dark points that I felt most alone. I met Adam during one of the college's welcoming parties. He was like a beam of brightness breaking through the clouds in my dreary existence. His goodness, that relaxed smile, it was also authentic. Meeting Adam made me feel like I was finally turning a fresh leaf. I'm leaving behind the oppressive atmosphere of my family turmoil in favor of something, or rather someone, immensely uplifting. So as time passed, Adam proved to be an incredible buddy who was always there for me like a solid rock. He was the type of buddy that listened to whatever I had to say without making me feel horrible about anything. He was just there, helping me feel better when everything seemed too much. Then, around Christmas, my parents had a large party and asked me to come home. Going back there and dealing with all of that stuff on my own was simply not appealing. So I got the notion to invite Adam along. I believed it was the ideal moment for my family to meet him. I informed my parents that I was bringing my boyfriend along, and that we would be staying in our separate room but would join everyone for the big meal. When we arrived, my parents seemed surprised to see Adam. You know, my folks have these old school beliefs and make hasty judgments about individuals based on how they appear. But I was ready for this. I had previously told Adam about my family. So when he met them, he was his normal charming self, even bringing my mother a bunch of flowers, which completely took her off surprise in a positive manner. Adam was the center of attention that night. He was cracking brilliant jokes and being his great self, and everyone in my family couldn't help but enjoy him. So Adam was completely winning over everyone at the meal. He was quite kind about everything. He said how amazing the meal was, spoke with everyone in a nice manner, and even gave a really beautiful speech, thanking my parents for allowing him to attend our family gathering. It was quite amazing because some of my cousins approached me to express how awesome Adam was, and they joked about if he had any brothers. That part had me laughing. I was relieved to see that everyone was communicating well with my guy, but I couldn't help but observe Olivia becoming increasingly irritated and simmering in her own rage as the evening progressed. Olivia began drinking too much and mumbling things to some of our relatives. She was clearly upset by Adam's presence, and it appeared like she was planning something. Then, in the midst of dinner, she simply blurted out loudly, wondering whether Adam and I were serious. Everyone simply stopped and looked at us. I did not even hesitate. I took Adam's hand and informed her that we were really serious about each other. But then Olivia, with a smug expression on her face, advised that I consider being with someone who better suited our family's customs. This implies that Adam was not a suitable match since he was different. Her statement was harsh and racist, and you could tell it made a lot of people at the meal uncomfortable since she was being so blatantly critical. Olivia, attempting to be subtle, recommended that I consider how different our cultures were. She was basically stating that I should be with someone who is more compatible with our family's way of doing things. Hearing her say that really riled me up, and I was going to let her have it. But Adam, who didn't appear affected by her statements, simply grinned and calmly assured her that he is just as American as everyone else in the room because he was born here. He went on to say that his great-grandparents immigrated to America a long time ago, and that his family has always taught him to appreciate other cultures and beliefs. I was disappointed that Adam had to defend himself in front of my family in that manner, but the way he handled Olivia's unpleasant words just strengthened my belief that he was the right guy for me. You can guarantee that when Adam stood up for himself, nobody thought very highly of Olivia. They did not appreciate how she tried to call out my boyfriend in front of everyone. Olivia stayed alone for the remainder of the evening, looking furious and drinking her drink, especially after we all returned to campus. I was so fed up with her conduct that I wrote her a lengthy text telling her how humiliated I was to call her my sister and how I wished she would just get out of my life. I didn't want anyone to know we were connected. She responded with a simple text that simply read, "Same here since that big argument. I haven't communicated with Olivia at all. Adam and I graduated college and now we have very nice careers. 3 years ago we decided to marry. I asked my parents to the wedding but made it plain Olivia was not welcome. My mother could not persuade me otherwise. I wanted our wedding to be really spectacular and elegant. My parents were astounded to see how beautiful everything looked during the wedding. My mother was completely taken aback by everything, and my father, who rarely speaks, said nothing at the ceremony. Our visitors, including friends and Adam's relatives, were able to meet my parents. It didn't take long for everyone to recognize Adam's family had a lot of money, and the wedding highlighted their affluence in comparison to mine. After the wedding, my parents came to speak with me. They looked startled by the amount of money spent on the wedding and Adam's family's riches. My mother was curious about how we could afford such a lavish wedding, and I assured her that Adam and I were working well for ourselves. I wanted to make sure they knew, even if Adam's family is wealthy, our choice to marry was not only about that. I also do rather well on my own. However, in retrospect, I believe it was a mistake to inform my parents so much about our financial condition so abruptly 2 years ago. My folks phoned me for assistance. They informed me they were in a pickle because my father had retired and they had spent all of their funds fixing up their house. They asked if I could lend them some money, which surprised me because they didn't typically do that. But to be honest, I've always felt that I didn't fit in with my family. It was great to be the one they turned to. They claimed they'd be pleased if I could send them $3,000 monthly. This money, they added, would cover their bills and medical expenses, which were increasing as they grew older. At the time, I was doing well at work, and Adam and I were in good financial standing. We didn't have any children, and I was well paid, so I said yes without hesitation. I think I was naive, but I believed it was my responsibility to assist my parents, believing they actually needed me. So I started wiring money to them every month. When Adam found out, he was surprised and pointed out that $3,000 a month was a lot of money to ask for, even if it was a hefty ask. Adam and I genuinely wanted to assist my parents, so sending them money every month became a part of what we did, and I never really looked into what they were doing with all that money. During this time, I began to feel like things between me and my parents were improving. I wasn't sure whether they were simply being kind because they liked the money pouring in, but it seemed like we were finally connecting. I began to wonder whether I could let go of the difficult times we had previously and start over, hoping for a brighter future together. Then, out of nowhere 2 weeks ago, my phone flooded with calls from them, smack in the middle of a hectic workday. They knew my calendar was hectic, so seeing all those missed calls made me suspect something major was going on. I hurried to call them back. My father was on the other end, begging me to stop by their house because they needed to talk about something serious. I agreed and wondered what was going on. That evening, after a hard day at work, I arrived at their door, exhausted yet interested. They were both looking quite apprehensive, which made me concerned. I inquired whether everything was good, and they began the conversation by expressing their gratitude for all of the financial assistance I'd been providing them. I simply sat there, completely confused, as my mother began to spew some very unexpected news. She informed me about my sister Olivia, who I had no idea was married, let alone wanting to raise a family. Olivia had been battling with infertility for a long time, which had been extremely difficult for both her and her spouse. She became pregnant after considerable hardship. However, the outcome was a miscarriage, which was extremely difficult for her. This was all shocking to me. I knew nothing about all of this. My parents went on to explain that Olivia was now considering IVF, a specialized medical technique to help her conceive, but it was extremely expensive. They needed to pay $25,000 for it. Then they glanced at me as if expecting something and told me that it was my responsibility as her sister to chip in and help. They went on to say that I should do this for Olivia because we are family, and family is meant to help one another. I listened to all of this, but when they asked for the money, I was completely surprised. The notion of paying such a large sum for Olivia, especially given our tumultuous history, astounded me. I had to tell them that Olivia and I had never been very close. She made my life terrible growing up, so the concept of giving her such a large sum of money made no sense to me at all. My folks were really unhappy with my response. They kept telling me that because I was Olivia's sister, it was my responsibility to help her have a kid. They even suggested that because I didn't have children, the least I could do was assist bring a grandchild into the family to attempt to make peace. I told them I was sorry for Olivia's situation, but I wasn't going to give her money as a gift. I told Olivia that if she genuinely needed the $25,000, I'd be willing to give it to her, but only if she signed a formal contract requiring her to repay me, and that if she didn't, I'd have the right to take her to court. This made my parents furious. They yelled at me, claiming it was impolite of me to even consider having Olivia sign a contract when I had so much money simply sitting there. My mother told me I was being selfish and that Olivia needed the money far more than I did. I was furious at their nerve. I informed them I was the one who worked really hard to get my money. I've got my own life and debts to pay. I couldn't just give away a large portion of my savings to someone who had always been rude to me and whom I hadn't spoken to in years. I made it clear to them that if they were not satisfied with my terms, they should not anticipate any more payment from me. Immediately after I stated that, my parents yelled at me, telling me that this was the precise reason they were upset with me. I was always overly proud, as if I was superior to everyone else. Their statements astonished me, especially given they had just asked me for money. Even though they attempted to make me feel bad, I didn't alter my mind, but I became increasingly dubious of the money I had been providing them. I stated that I needed to go to the restroom. I had to move quickly, so I crept into my parents' bedroom and noticed my dad's phone charging on the nightstand. I felt something wasn't right, but I couldn't shake the awful feeling in my belly. So I decided to check his phone. That's when I noticed the mails indicating that he had been giving $1,800 to my sister every month for the past 2 years. I was very startled. My instincts were correct. It seemed like an enormous betrayal. And it wasn't just about money. The actual issue for me was that they had lied to me and messed with my emotions for 2 years. My pulse raced as I realized how badly they had cheated me. I returned to face my parents without trying to disguise how deeply their treachery had devastated me. I asked them directly what they had been doing with the $3,000 I provided them each month. They seemed completely taken aback by my question. They tripped over their words, trying to figure out what to say. I did not wait for them to sort it out. I called them out for transferring $1,800 to my sister every month. They turned white as a sheet and were unable to talk for several seconds. Then the truth came out. They acknowledged to providing Olivia a significant portion of the money I sent her. Their justification was that she really needed the money, and as her parents, they couldn't simply watch her suffer. Hearing that excuse made me very angry. I asked them, "What about me? Didn't you think it was terrible to lie and steal my money for 2 years?" They attempted to justify themselves by claiming Olivia and her husband did not make much money. My parents attempted to excuse their actions by claiming that because I had a nice wedding and a well-paying career, they believed that stealing money from me would not have a significant impact on me. They even claimed it was all Olivia's idea at first, but they went along with it, believing they were doing the greatest thing for their children. But all that did was make me feel even more sad and dissatisfied. I'd had enough by that moment. I informed them that I would not be giving them any more money and that I was no longer financially supporting them. My parents became frantic and angry, telling me that I couldn't just quit assisting my family when they needed me. But I laughed it off and left their house experiencing a rush of feelings, including rage and despair, as well as a big weight lifted off my shoulders. As I write this, my parents keep phoning, imploring me to reconsider, stating they would not take any more money from me if I do not entirely cut them off. After all they've done. I'm very appreciative for all of your nice and encouraging notes. Honestly, the guilt for my family was beginning to weigh on me, since I know I've been really fortunate to have someone as great as Adam in my life. It means a lot to me that people are now hearing and believing my childhood memories. Talking about this has been difficult since some people believe I'm making things up or being overly dramatic. So many thanks to everyone. I've discussed it with Adam, and he's really furious about how my parents have been tricking me and stealing my money for the past few years. We have taken a strong determination not to allow this happen again. Regardless, even if my parents are in a poor situation. In the meantime, my parents keep phoning and messaging, alternating between apologizing, making me feel horrible, and imploring me to rethink my decision. But regardless of what they say, I am sticking to my choice to cut off communication with them. Okay, so it's been about 2 weeks since I last informed you guys what was going on. This time, something really unexpected occurred. Olivia, my stepsister, unexpectedly messaged me. I was really astonished because I had no idea she had my phone number after all this time. But instead of apologizing or anything, she wrote me a long, harsh text. She described me as selfish and juvenile, and stated that she has always detested me. She even went so far as to brand me a gold digger, claiming I only married Adam for his money. She also stated that I should not keep all of my money for me, and that our family deserved a portion of it since, well, we are family. Olivia even admitted that she wishes she had been meaner to me as a child so that I could remember her and what she was capable of. Reading all of it made me feel terrible, and I ended myself weeping. It felt as if all of my awful memories from my childhood returned at once. When I showed Adam the message, he became quite angry. He declared he'd had enough and decided to take action on his own. So Adam set up a group conversation on Messenger with my parents, Olivia, and other of our relatives and cousins. He sent copies of Olivia's communication and stated that he was getting involved because Olivia and my parents were attempting to intimidate me into continuing to give them $3,000 each month. He informed everyone about the falsehoods my parents and Olivia had been telling me for the previous 2 years, including how Olivia used to bully me often when we were youngsters. So image this. Not long later, Adam revealed everything in the group chat. Things got quite heated very quickly. Like, our phone began to fill up with texts from relatives who were utterly astonished. They couldn't believe how my parents had tried to steal money from me way. And let's not get started on Olivia. Everyone was taken aback by how cruel and devious she had been. I received several calls from family members, And during those discussions, I told them more about how my parents were providing Olivia $1,800 each month from the money I assumed was going to them. Our family were really outraged about the whole incident, and as a result, my parents began to receive a lot of criticism from everyone. They were so ashamed and pressured that they phoned me and begged me to remove the group chat and pretend nothing had occurred. But Adam was like, "No way! This is not something we're going to ignore." He was tough and informed them he had had enough of their crap. He even threatened them that if they tried to ask us for money again, he'd hire the best lawyers to take them to court. That completely frightened them out. Since then, they've been far too terrified to contact me. Other family members have told me that my parents are quite embarrassed of themselves right now, especially after finally confronting Olivia about what she has done to me. They appear to be very regretful after finding confirmation in the messages that Olivia was bullying me, precisely as I had previously stated. But to be honest, I feel like it's far too late to apologize now. I quote, "V chosen to just keep them out of my life and concentrate on being happy with Adam, free of all the turmoil. Hello everyone, I just want to say that you all awesome. Seriously, thank you very much for all of your support. I wish I could reply to every one of you individually, but my fingers would certainly fall off if I tried. Since my last refresh, I've received an overwhelming amount of support from you all. It's been fantastic. And Adam and I are both considering attending a therapist. We'd like to get some help working through the really difficult feelings I've been having about cutting ties with my parents and getting over how my family betrayed me. But all of the support from my cousins and other relatives has really helped me feel confident that I made the right decision. So far, there has been complete silence for my parents and Olivia, and based on what Adam said to them, I'm confident that will continue. Moving forward, I want to prioritize self-care and focus on the positive aspects of my life, particularly my time with Adam. I understand that it will not always be simple, but I remain hopeful. With the proper people on my side, I believe things will improve. I'm hoping this will be the last time I have to inform you all on this.